All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 28 of the Green Zone. This will be for week 9 of the NFL. Took a little reprieve last week, a little bye week, if you will. Everybody needs a bye week, including me, and that means week 8 is the perfect week for that, right? Middle of the season, took a week off, got to learn these teams a little bit more. We're going to get you right back into that Green Zone. Don't you worry. I'm Jimmy Havener. This is the Green Zone, and way back there you could see a little bobblehead of Jimmy G and George Kittle. All right, guys. First up, we're going to go through our pick'ems. We're going to do our fantasy advice. Then we're going to get to our betting advice. And then at the very end, I'm going to do a Week 8 recap. We all know that I don't go over the Thursday night game or the Monday night game here on the Green Zone because that's not where we're going to put our money anyways. So first up, we got the head-to-head pick'ems. As we like to say here on the Green Zone, let's kick it off. First up, we got the Texans at the Jaguars, guys. I'm going to go Texans on this. I believe the Texans to be a playoff-bound team. I think that division is going to be interesting come late in the season. It already is making itself that way between the Colts and the Texans. I think they're going to stay close throughout. I think the Texans are going to edge out the Colts there, as I think they're just that much of a better team. I like the Texans versus the Jaguars in this one and winning some more in the future. As long as the Texans can keep Deshaun Watson on his feet, the man is going to make plays. Watson is what I think an elite quarterback is. He made that elite list that I gave you guys earlier this year when I separated quarterbacks in elite, middling, and bottom tier. I put Watson in that elite. I believe he is. If the Texans can keep him on his feet, he'll prove it. The bottom line, this year, guys, the Texans are doing a better job of that. They still have some work to do. Last year, they gave up more sacks than any other team in the NFL. So, the Texans still made the playoffs. So let's see what they can do. Continue to keep him on his feet. Continue to keep him healthy. I think the Texans win, and I think they kind of win big in Jacksonville. I expect this to be a high-scoring game. If you've noticed, guys, the games that are... I'm sorry, I said in Jacksonville. This is going to be in Wembley Stadium in London. If you've taken notice, the games in London so far this year have been a higher-scoring affair. I think that continues in this one. Give me the Texans over the Jaguars in a shootout. Next, we got the Bears at the Eagles, guys. The Bears have an elite defense. There's no question about it. However, they do not have a quarterback. Therefore, they have an anemic offense. When you do not have a quarterback in this league, you tend to struggle. It is a quarterback-driven league, and therefore, them's the breaks. The Eagles, on the other hand, have found their quarterback in Carson Wentz. They've been up and down. They've had injuries. They won the Super Bowl a couple years ago. This is a team with a lot of talent. I've been saying all year, I expect the Eagles to bounce back. I expect the Eagles to play well. They did last week, and I think that continues. I think the Eagles beat the Bears at home, carrying over their momentum from last week's victory, which was a pretty big one against the Bills. The Bills are still a mediocre team. They're better than they were last year. Big test for them this last week. They failed it, but they still have a good defense. The Bills have a good defense, and the Eagles took advantage of them and played well, and I think they continue that against another good defense in the Bears. Vikings at Chiefs, guys, this is a big game for both teams. The Vikings are on a 3-game win streak. Kirk Cousins is playing like an all-star. Told you guys before, I don't like to bet on or for or against him because he's too inconsistent. I think when it comes to games like this, important games, big divisional games, he tends to fold, he tends to shrivel. In this one, I don't think he does, however. The Vikings have a great run game. Dalvin Cook is an elite running back in the NFL right now. He's running like a madman. You're going to put him against the league's worst rush defense in the league. That is the Chiefs. A little repetitive there. League's worst rush defense in the league. Yes, they are not that good in the league. They're not that good, I promise. The Chiefs have a terrible rush defense. Dalvin Cook is going to take advantage of that, and I think off the play action, Kirk Cousins can make it work. Give me the Vikings going into Kansas City in a big game, loud crowd. Cousins gets it done. I don't know. You might want to bet the other way because I'm always wrong when it comes to Cousins. At the same time, guys, the Chiefs are missing Mahomes. Matt Moore put up a good effort. They still lost an important game last week. This game is more important for the Chiefs than it is for the Vikings, believe it or not. Even though the Vikings have only lost 2 games and they're in the wild card spot, that's how top-heavy the NFC is. The Chiefs are kind of teetering and losing control of their division. They don't want to lose any more games. They need Matt Moore to win this one. I think the Chiefs' backs are against the wall, so I wouldn't be surprised if they win at home. But I like the Vikings better, and I think that Vikings defense can get to Matt Moore. All right, guys, Colts at Steelers. This is my upset of the week. I'm going Steelers. Yes, I am betting on Mason Rudolph and the Steelers. Look, the bottom line is the Steelers have a legit and good defense. They really do. And I think that could be a problem for the Colts. Now, we all know here on the Green Zone that I have gone against Brissett before, and he has burned me. The man has proven me wrong before. He could do it again. I wouldn't be shocked if the Colts beat the Steelers. They are favored. But it is in Pittsburgh, and I think we're getting a little bit of a glimpse of what this defense can be in the future if you just give a legitimate quarterback to the Steelers and a couple of playmakers that they lost back on that offense. This could be a good team once again. I like the Steelers upsetting the Colts. Call it a gut game if you will, guys. I like it. Jets at Dolphins, guys. I'm going Jets. It's a battle of the shits. Nobody really cares. Who's going to win this game? Nobody, like I said, nobody gives a shit. I'm just going to go Jets just because the Dolphins are terrible and I think they're trying to lose. The Jets may try to win a little bit more. Redskins at Bills, guys. I got to have the Bills bouncing back in this one. Look, I just mentioned it before. I think the Bills had a big test last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. I'll mention it later on the Week 8 recap. Bottom line is they failed that test. They've had a weak schedule so far. They've taken advantage and won those games against the weaker teams. That's what you're supposed to do. You can only play the teams on the schedule, and when you play bad teams, you're supposed to beat those bad teams. They've done that. I think they have a good defense. I think Josh Allen is improving as a starter, and he's going to only get better. But they're still not that good. They're missing a lot of pieces. Allen still has a lot to learn. They're a mediocre team. They're above average, and they play in a crap division, so they're going to shine. And they've got a weak schedule because they had a tough year last year, so they're going to shine. So this is a game again against a weaker opponent. Bills have a good defense. Redskins are atrocious. Give me the Bills. Next, we got the Lions at the Raiders, guys. I don't like all the dings and bings, but I am a popular man. I apologize there. We got the Buccaneers. It's thrown me all off. I've been thrown for a loop. Oh, jeez, Louise. Give me a Diet Coke, please. Salute. All right, guys. Next, we got the Buccaneers at the Seahawks. I like the Seahawks in this one, obviously. The Buccaneers are teetering on unraveling for the season. But the Seahawks are a tough team, and they're a tough team to beat at home. Right now, they're rolling. They only have one loss on the season. The only reason they're not in first place is because the undefeated 49ers here have not lost yet, baby. Mwah! Love you guys. We'll get to that later. But yeah, give me the Seahawks at home. I feel pretty comfortable about that one. Packers at Chargers, guys. Packers, obviously. The Chargers are the team that the NFL's kind of forgotten about. Does anybody even realize that they're in Los Angeles? Because I hear every single NFL analyst call them the San Diego Chargers. Go back, San Diego! But the Bullets get beat in this one big time by an elite NFC team. The Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones continue to roll with the two AA runs going on there. Next, we got the Browns with the Broncos, guys. Browns win this one. Freddie Kitchen can't ruin this one. The Broncos have gotten to a point where they're benching Joe Flacco in lieu of, nobody knows. It's the guy who stretched out his hands before the Columbine to make him bigger. So Big Hands McGee will be starting against the Browns. I'm going to take the Browns. I think the Browns bounce back. Has anyone noticed that earlier this year, I did predict before the season started that the Browns would start off rough, lose a lot of games, and maybe go on like a 5 to 6 game win streak? This might be the start of it, guys. Their schedule gets consistently weaker at this point. I think the Browns can make a run for it, but ultimately still don't make the playoffs. Too much, what's it called? Expectations put on the Browns, and they folded under it. They're too young. They're not ready. Maybe next year. All right. Next, we got the Patriots at the Ravens, guys. I like the Pats in this one. I like the Pats big. We'll get into this in the betting segment later, but the Pats are coming off of a game that I think they felt was too close for comfort against the Browns, a weaker opponent, a team that they know that they're better than. I think Belichick rallies the troops. I think he lets them know where they made mistakes and how that cannot happen again. I think he gets them back to doing their job and gets another easy W against the Ravens here. I understand that the Patriots have a weak rush defense. If there's a weakness on that defense, it's the rush defense. Now, they don't have a weakness. They're number 1 or 2 defense, however you want to put it. They're number 1. The Niners are number 2. I think the Niners are a little better. I guess maybe a little biased, but I've been watching them closely, both teams, and I do like the Niners defense a little bit better. But that Pats D is freaking awesome. If they do have a weakness, it is in the run game. And look, Lamar Jackson is an elite running quarterback. He is so fast, he runs out of his own shoes at times. So I think he'll have a little success on the ground, a little bit of success through the air, not much, no more than 200 yards. Maybe gets in on the ground for a couple of touchdowns. We'll talk about that in fantasy later. But ultimately, the Pats get it done. I think they can win this one kind of big. I think Brady takes advantage of that Ravens weak pass defense, which is where they've had issues. and exploits that. Next, we got the Cowboys at the Giants, guys. Monday Night Football. Divisional game. Probably some wacky stuff that's going to go on. Probably going to be closer than all of us expected. But at the end of the day, I expect the Cowboys to win that game. They're the better team. They should. Minus any flukes. We'll see. All right, that does it for our pick'ems. Next, we have our fantasy advice. Guys, if you've been following the Green Zone, you have noticed that our fantasy advice has struck gold every single week, and I feel confident saying that and not jinxing anything. There are a lot of matchups this week that I'm very happy and excited about. I've given you 3 players at each position consistently, so quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defense. This is daily fantasy and standard fantasy advice. This week, I'm so excited that I've given you 4 or 5 options for each position. So let's start it off with quarterbacks, guys. Let's cue the music. We are on it today. Hell yeah. Next, we got quarterbacks, guys. First up, Russell Wilson going against that Tampa Bay paper-thin secondary, baby. I like Russell Wilson a lot. Look, I'm a Niner fan through and through. I'm not a big fan of the Seahawks. I really actually hate him a lot. But I cannot hate on Russell Wilson. The guy is phenomenal. He continues to have great game after great game in his amazing Hall of Fame career. It's hard to hate on the guy because he's so talented, guys. So give me Russell Wilson against that Buccaneers secondary at home. I think he goes off and goes off big in this one. Next, we got Lamar Jackson, guys. I just talked about it. I think the Ravens are going to lose this game, and I think they could lose big. I think the Pats might roll him, actually. I just have this feeling. But Lamar Jackson on the ground, I think he'll have success there. And we all know if you play standard Yahoo Fantasy, you get more points. A quarterback gets more points if he rushes a touchdown than he does if he throws a touchdown. 6 versus 4, I don't get it. It's never made sense to me. It makes the leagues lopsided and quarterback's not as important. But whatever. Lamar Jackson probably gets in on the ground. I think he gets in at least 1 rushing touchdown, maybe throws 1, 2 passing touchdowns. 250 plus yard or 250 yards, under 300, somewhere around 280, something like that. Maybe an interception or 2 as well. They lose, but Lamar Jackson gets his. If you don't feel comfortable with that, guys, don't worry. I got you covered. Tom Brady is going to have an amazing game. Look, the Baltimore Ravens have shown that they have a legitimate rush defense, and if there is a weakness on their team, it's their secondary. Now, that secondary's been gelling lately, and they've been playing better. But it's Tom Brady, guys, and he's going to exploit any weakness that you have, and it's that secondary, Baltimore. So I like Tom Brady, Tom Magnificent, Tom the Great, getting it done there. Next, I've got a couple of cheaper options for you guys. For those of you who've listened to my podcast for years now, you've noticed that I have a tendency to try to save money in daily fantasy on quarterbacks. If you could save money on a quarterback with a plus matchup, then you can invest that money into legitimate, awesome running backs with great matchups, and then also a couple of good wide receivers. It ends up saving you a lot of, salary, if you will, for daily fantasy. The strategy works for me. Hopefully it does for you guys. So bottom of the barrel bargain type guys this week with plus matchups. I like both Matt Stafford and Derek Carr. They're going against each other. Neither team has a good defense. Both are in the top 5 yards per game, passing yards per game, giving up bottom 5, top 5. They give up a lot of passing yards through the air, both these teams, the Lions and the Raiders do. And Derek Carr, he's going to check down a lot underneath. He's going to take that quick route, as Gruden knows that he's not the best quarterback. He's going to take care of him, going to get some easy reads for him. Darren Waller, little check downs to Josh Jacobs, maybe a quick out to Tyrell Williams. But I think Derek Carr has a good game. I think Stafford has a good game. He's thrown 3 touchdown passes in his last 3 games. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Lions win when he does that, but I saw an interesting stat on that. That's the only reason I bring that up. But I like either one of them guys, and you can get them for pretty cheap in daily fantasy. All right, running backs. First up, Dalvin Cook. And yes, he is listed first for a reason, guys. You're going to have to spend a little bit more on him, but I really think it's worth it. He's going against that Chiefs rush defense. It's a plus matchup. He's a legitimate running back. I really like spending the money on Dalvin Cook here. If you need to save on the back end after spending that, here are some guys that you could save on. Le'Veon Bell, plus matchup against the Dolphins. Derrick Henry, plus matchup as well. And Nick Chubb, he might be a little bit more expensive, but he's an awesome running back. We all know from watching so far this year, he's a beast. All right, guys, wide receivers. Kenny Golladay. Like I said earlier, the Raiders their secondary doesn't really frighten anybody. I like Kenny Golladay getting his often. Tyler Lockett, somebody you could slide into your second wide receiver option, somebody that nobody's really thinking about, but at the Seahawks have a great matchup against the Buccaneers. Russell Wilson's going to hit Tyler Lockett deep at least once, maybe twice, and I do believe he gets in the end zone as well. Mike Evans, welcome to the NFL, Mike Evans. He's having a great follow-up year to his last year. I think Jameis Winston gets it to him a couple of times again in the end zone. I think Mike Evans has potential to go off big this week. Stephon Diggs, since Adam Thielen has been out, Stephon Diggs has become the #1 target for Kirk Cousins and the Minnesota Vikings. The Chiefs don't have a good defense. We all know how they win. They have to outscore you, and Matt Moore did his best to do that last week. I think this could be a shootout here too, but bottom line is, I think guys like Dalvin Cook and Stephon Diggs have big days for Minnesota. And then last on the list, guys, this just in, if you're the Patriots and you're in the red zone and you're playing the Patriots and they're in the red zone, I should say, look out for Julian Edelman. Tom Brady's probably going to throw to him on a little jerk route, which means he's going to make you look like a jerk as he scores on you over and over again. I don't get this. Teams do not seem to want to bracket or double cover Julian Edelman in the red zone. Not really sure why, but it's become pretty obvious that that's where Tom Brady's going to go. He continues that against Baltimore. Baltimore continues the trend of defenses not focusing on Julian Edelman in the red zone, and he scores. All right, tight ends, guys. Darren Waller continues to have a tight end 1 type season. The guy's not just a fluke. He's a legitimate tight end. He's playing well. Not to mention the Detroit Lions don't play well against the tight ends. Give me Darren Waller. Now, I'm sorry. The Lions actually do play pretty well against tight ends, but just for pure usage, I think that two guys have tough matchups against teams that have played well against tight ends so far. That's Darren Waller and Travis Kelce. They're both on my list here. But as far as just being utilized, they're going to be used over and over and over. Derek Carr likes to go to his tight end. Matt Moore, we know backup quarterbacks and young quarterbacks like to go to their tight end. It's their emergency. It's their blankie, if you will, right? They're going to check down and do it often. And I think that just from the pure usage point, they're going to get like 10-plus targets, both of these guys. So there's going to be some production there no matter what. A couple of guys on the cheap. If you don't want to spend the money on those more expensive tight ends that have tougher matchups in the Vikings and then the way the Lions play tight ends, go TJ Hawkinson. The Raiders have allowed at least 2 touchdowns to a tight end per game or something ridiculous like that. It might even be 3 touchdowns. No, it's not 3. Let's not get crazy. But it is something ridiculous. Look it up. They're playing terrible against tight ends. TJ Hawkinson is a talented tight end. Now it just comes down to, will Stafford target him? Stafford seems to go to a different receiver, but then focus on that one receiver for a game. Last week it was Kenny Golladay. Before that it was Marvin Jones Jr. Before that it was somebody else. But if he does get it to TJ Hawkinson, I like him as a touchdown dependent or 2 in a plus matchup tight end. Jonnu Smith, guys, if you haven't noticed, Delanie Walker went down. He's been out. Jonnu Smith took over in Tennessee. Another subpar quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, who's going to want to check down to his tight end, utilized the hell out of Jonnu, and he had a great last week. I think he continues that in a good matchup this week. Defenses really quick, guys. Bills, Browns, Panthers. They all have good matchups. I think the Panthers in particular bounce back. I know that the Niners put up a 50-burger on them, baby. Believe me, I was there. But I think they bounce back. They do have a legitimate and good defense. They're not going to be going against Shanahan and that Niner offense every week. The Browns have a plus matchup going against a quarterback making his first start in Denver. And then the Bills obviously going against the Redskins. So take advantage of those defenses there. If you need to pick them up on the waiver wire in your daily or in your Yahoo leagues, and then in daily fantasy, some of those defenses aren't as expensive right now. All right, that does it for the fantasy and brings us to the money segment, baby, where I get you in that zone to make that green, hence the name. Let's get into the game. All right, first up, guys, we got our first look bets. Bets that I looked at and they right away jumped off the page at me. I'm going to do something a little bit different this week. I'm going to let you know which way the money's going. So I looked at the lines earlier. I looked at them this last Tuesday, and now we're here on a Saturday, so I've seen which way the money is going, and I'm going to let you conspiracy theorists out there understand what that exactly means and how that plays into it. So First, we got the Cardinals plus 10.5. I apologize. That was on my list from Tuesday. I did win money on that. You guys can't win money on that. Cardinals plus 10.5 got me a W there. All right, the over at 47 in the Texans-Jags game in London. All right, guys, earlier in the week, this game was at 46.5. It's moved to 47. That means we're going with the money. That means people are betting on that over, right? So Vegas is raising the over. That's what that means to go with the money. Conspiracy theorists would say never go with the money, always go against it. We're going against it with a lot of our other bets this week, so we'll see how it all turns out. But I like the over in that London game as the NFL tries to get London into the NFL and wants to give them some high-scoring affairs. Next, we got the Eagles, minus 4.5. Now, this is against the money. The Eagles were at minus 5. Now they're at minus 4.5. I like this bet even more. Give me the Eagles minus 4.5, doing their thing against another tough defense as the Eagles start to feel their oats and get back to where they should be, really. Next, we got the Pats, minus 3.5. This is, again, against the money. The Pats were an even bigger favorite earlier in the week. Now they're only favored by 3.5. Like I said, guys, I think the Pats can roll the Ravens in this one. So give me the Pats, minus 3.5. Second take. That means I went through again, and now I'm kind of like, all right, I kind of like that game. I'll take it. Let's see it. Steelers +1 versus the Colts, guys. I told you before, this is kind of a gut game, right? I don't really know why I think the Steelers are going to beat the Colts, but it just jumps off at me as a game that they might. So, give me the Steelers +1. And that money line has stayed the same. It hasn't moved all week. Seahawks -5 against the Buccaneers. We're going against the money line again there. They were an even bigger favorite. Now they're down to -5. I like the Seahawks winning that one. Green Bay -4 versus the Chargers. That money line hasn't moved. That stayed the same. Third glance games, guys. Here we are in our third glance games. As you know, these are games I like to have fun with. These are games you probably shouldn't put your money on. But if you're feeling a little risque, sometimes they carry a little bit of a heavier pocket or reward, if you will, as I go out on the limb. We got the over at 49 in the Packers-Chargers game. We are going with the money. That over was a little lower, and I liked it a little bit lower. 49 is a little hefty price to pay there, as the NFL pulls back on the reins of allowing teams to just play 7-on-7 this year. So, be wary there. Next, we got the Cowboys -7 against the Giants. Look, guys, the Cowboys are a much better team than the Giants, and they're better by more than 7 points. However, this is Monday Night Football. Usually those games tend to be close. I don't know why, you tell me. It's a divisional game. Divisional games tend to be close. We know why there. The bottom line is, guys, as far as all the years, last year, this year, and in years compared to this one, there's been more games where 3 points or less has been the difference. So a lot of close games is what I'm trying to say. All year there have been a lot of close games, which is strange because really the league is full of have and have-nots as far as teams go. I can go through it, but there's really like 8 or 9 good NFL teams, and the rest are just crap. So it's really strange how every game seems to be close. But so 7 is a big point spread, even though the Cowboys are way better than the Giants. And that money has stayed the same on that one all week. And then finally, guys, this one I just saw today, and I thought I'd throw in there as I was kind of doing research and picking out fantasy players and guys I think would go big and maybe score a few touchdowns. I started to realize that a lot of them are in that Raiders-Lions game, as neither team has a good defense. So the over is sitting at 51.5. That's quite a bit of points. Vegas thinks that they have crappy defenses too. So I don't know which way the money line's going on this one, as I didn't look this game up earlier in the week, but I do like it now. So take that for what you will. By the way, my advice is I would stay away from that Cowboys-Giants game. All right. That does it for the money segment, guys. We're now going to get into the recap of Week 8 and go over some fun stats, some things that happened last week. So let's kick it off. First up, we had Green Bay at Chiefs. Now, look, guys, I've watched all these games. I took notes on all these games. I've written those notes down. You want to see them? Yes, They're right here. You can't see because of the glare. There's lots of notes on there. So if you see me looking down and you see me reading, that's what I'm doing. I had a few people comment on me looking down and reading last week. Tough. I don't have a teleprompter, so I'm just going to have to look down and read my notes. It's still good work, I promise. All right, guys, Green Bay at the Chiefs. The Chiefs put up a good fight with Matt Moore at quarterback, who looked all right? Matt Moore comes in, he steps in, and he puts up 24 points. That's not easy to do on a Green Bay Packer defense that's been pretty stellar so far this year. But ultimately, the Packers get it done. They score 31 on that sorry Chiefs defense. And Aaron Jones leads the league in touchdowns right now, guys. If anyone tells you that they predicted that, look, I have him on my fantasy team. I had no idea he'd lead the league in touchdowns, going into week 8 or week 9 in the NFL. So anyone who tells you that is full of crap. At the same time, he is a young kid who is super fast. So there's a lot of talent there with Aaron Rodgers being the one that can not only hand it off to him, but throw it to him as the kid seems to be able to catch. He goes for 159 receiving yards, to put a little exclamation point on the point I was just making, and that is a career high for Aaron Jones. Next, we got the Cardinals at the Saints, guys. Drew Brees returns, and the Saints are right back to form, right? I mean, they were surviving with Bridgewater in there. The guy did good. The kid played great. He's probably got a future in this NFL. He definitely has a future in the NFL as either a backup or maybe even a starter somewhere for somebody who's hurting for a quarterback. But that pick that I made before the season started of the Saints going to the Super Bowl is starting to feel more and more comfortable, guys. Just wait until they get Kamara back. Murray has done a great job. Latavius Murray has done a great job, but Alvin Kamara is the man there. True throws for 273 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He becomes the first quarterback in NFL history to reach 75,000 passing yards. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. I think I mentioned before, I met the guy before. I got to talk to him for about 30 minutes. He's awesome. He's really cool. He's down to earth. Met him at the Pro Bowl. He's one of the only guys that came over to talk to us. Those of us sitting in the front row at that Pro Bowl, and they weren't doing much else. So needless to say, it was pretty cool of him to do that. And some of the other guys lost a little respect for. All right, guys. My prediction is the Saints. I already talked about that. After winning 3 games in a row, the Cardinals have lost 2 in a row, but those losses come to the Saints and the 49ers. Those are 2 really good teams in the NFC. Look, I honestly think that the Cardinals are the best last place within their division team. Name me another team that's in last place in their division that's better than the Cardinals. Don't worry, I'll wait. Yeah, no, there's not really anybody. I think they are the best last place division team. They've got a future there. They've got some things to fix on the defensive end, obviously. But Kyler Murray is tough to game plan for. He's super quick. And I think that they've got a future there. So, Panthers at 49ers, guys. Obviously, I know that the Niners just played Thursday night and they beat the Cardinals, but there is stuff to go over in both games for sure. I don't go over Thursday night games, so just real quick on the Panthers-Niner game. Emmanuel Sanders has scored in every game that he's played since coming over to the Niners. I said it before the season started. The Niners need a legit number 1 wide receiver. They finally go out and get one. Even though there are guys that I wanted more than Emmanuel Sanders, like Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson, those guys were never even mentioned. So apparently there was never even an option there. And out of the guys that they had options for, Mohamed Sanu, Emmanuel Sanders, that tier type of wide receivers, Emmanuel is the guy that I wanted. Yes, over Mohamed Sanu, even though the Niners attempted to get Sanu and they failed, I was more excited, or I was actually excited about that, happy that they failed that, because I do like Emmanuel Sanders as a more refined wide receiver. He runs excellent routes. Almost reminds me of like a Wes Welker, Julian Edelman type. He's really quick in and out of his breaks. He knows it. He's a professional. He's a great wide receiver. If you give Jimmy G a legitimate wide receiver to go along with probably the best tight end in the NFL right now, he's going to look better. And he showed that in the Thursday Night Football game. I've been saying this for years. It's like finally somebody's starting to listen. So it's probably this podcast. I mean, the millions that are listening, obviously. Kyle Allen hadn't lost a game or thrown a pick. He throws 3 picks, and obviously they lose that game. Tevin Coleman scored 4 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 1 receiving, becomes the first 49er running back to do so. And that's, guys like Frank Gore, Roger Craig, pretty crazy good company to surpass there, Tevin. So hats off to you. 49ers had 7 sacks in that game. Bosa goes crazy, shows his athleticism on that pick. Incredible. The kid's amazing. I'm telling you, if you watch a Niner game, watch Bosa. Just watch him. Watch him on every snap. He honestly gets held and or double teamed on about 80% of his snaps. I'm not joking. It's crazy. It stands out too. They're like standout holds. Like, I get it for those of you shouting into your YouTube screen right now. Everybody gets held on every play. Yeah, no, I get it. I've heard the announcers say that too. But what I'm saying is that it's very obvious. It's very, very obvious. Linemen are having a hell of a time with that kid. Not only has the Niners D-line been great, as I'm talking them up here, as everybody around the league is, but their secondary has been great. I just read a stat the other day that the majority of the 49ers sacks have come after 3 seconds. That means that those are coverage sacks. That means that the secondary on the back end is holding it down. Great job, especially considering they don't have Ahkello Witherspoon. They're starting secondary opposite of Richard Sherman. And then obviously the offense has overcome losing a left tackle in Joe Staley, a Pro Bowl left tackle at that, a right tackle in Mike McGlinchey, a starting fullback in Mike Juszczyk, and now they just lost Quan Alexander for the year with a pec tear. Same thing that happened to J.J. Watt. So I'm not going to put it past the 49ers to continue to overcome these injuries, but they are starting to pile up. They're starting to pile up to very key players. If you saw the Instagram, post and the tweets from all the Niner defenders, how Quan Alexander is the heart and soul of that defense, that's coming from them, not me. I would have thought it would have been Richard Sherman or even Fred Warner, because Quan just came here this year, but out of the mouths straight from the horse's mouth, the Niners defense is a little torn up after that loss. So I don't know how many injuries they can overcome. So far, they've done it. But the bottom line is, halfway through the season, they are 8-0, which is absolutely amazing. There's not a single person on this earth who would have predicted that. So congrats to the 49ers thus far. All right, Browns at Patriots, guys. The Pats have an incredible defense. I think the Niners' D is better. I mentioned that earlier, but they're not far behind. They forced 3 turnovers in this game. This just in, Julian Edelman, when you're playing the Pats and they're in the red zone, focus on Julian Edelman, please. He's gonna be the Tom Brady's #1 guy that he looks for. Freddie Kitchens has a complete brain lapse and takes a false start on 4th down. If you didn't see it, guys, it was 4th down and 10 or 11. He realizes that he wants to go for it because they're down pretty big with only 6 minutes left. And then he takes a false start because he wasn't ready or he had a brain fart or whatever. It makes it 4th and 16. That's never going to be good against that Pats defense, which it wasn't. The result was a sack. Look, the bottom line, I know everybody's giving Kitchens crap, and I get it. It's something you can't afford to do when you're a professional head coach in the NFL. At the same time, the Browns weren't going to win that game. They weren't. I'm sorry. The Pats are the better team. They were going to win the game. Eagles at Buffalo. I thought this was a huge test for the Bills. I thought they failed. I've mentioned it about 3 or 4 times now, but they still aren't. They're still not that bad. It's just they're not that good. They play in a weak division. They have a weak schedule, so they're a mediocre team. And their win-loss record shows them being a little bit better than a mediocre team, which they're not. So you'll see they're going to get another win this week, which will give them a record that shows them being better than they are. But if you watch football, you can see that this is a team that's young and getting better, but it isn't quite there yet. I don't think it's that hard to explain. The Eagles bounce back and they start playing the way that I thought they would before the season started, and the way that I thought they should be playing all year. It may not be too late, though. Dallas is leading that division at 4-3, and that's not unreachable or unattainable for the Eagles at all. The Bengals versus the Rams. This game happened in London. Cooper Kupp goes nuts. Look, I don't know why no one likes Jared Goff. I watched him drop dimes all over that field. Now, look, it's against the Bengals, but he made some impressive throws, including to Cooper Kupp. There was one in particular where it was over the shoulder for Cooper Kupp on a crossing route where Goff was given time. He made the throw. It was against double coverage, and there's no defense for a great throw like that. I don't have anything against Goff. I think from talking with other people within and around football, it seems like everybody either loves or hates this guy. I think he's an above-average quarterback who's young and has the potential to get better. I don't really understand why everybody hates him. I think he's a good quarterback. When he goes against good defenses, like the Patriots in the Super Bowl, he didn't play that well. Neither did Tom Brady, really. I mean, so, the kid's young. He's going to be fine. I don't know. There's a lot of quarterbacks that I would not want. I would take Goff over a lot of other quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Put it that way. So, take that for what it's worth, I guess. Seattle, anything else in there? The Bungles are officially back. And Andy Dalton, the Andy Dalton experience, I mean, it's like the Bengals don't understand when to let go, right? This is like very clingy franchise or something. They held on to Marvin Jones for too long when he showed them year in and year out that he's not a playoff, that he's not going to win you or, a playoff game or get you to the promised land. And they're now holding on to Andy Dalton for too long. He's not a legit elite. I'd take Jared Goff over Andy Dalton any day. So how about that? So I guess if you're a Bengal fan, you just have to, cross your fingers and hope that they realize, sometime in the near future. I don't know, but the Bengals continue to just cling on to subpar talent. Seattle at Atlanta. Chris Carson's a legitimate running back. If you have him in fantasy, you already know this, as I do. Russell Wilson has another great game to add to his amazing career. Like I said, I hate the Seahawks, but I cannot hate on that guy. He is so talented. Best winning percentage for a quarterback after a loss within the regular season goes to Russell Wilson as he edges out Tom Brady and Joe Montana. Anytime you're in the company of those two, that's a pretty good place to be. Chargers at Bears. Trubisky is awful. And now, as a Bears fan, you have to start wondering how long they're going to continue to start Trubisky, how long they're going to continue to hope that he pans out to be the quarterback that obviously Nagy and the franchise expects him to be. Because I can tell you right now, that's not an NFL quarterback. And I don't really see things changing there. So good luck to you Bears fans. I feel bad for Allen Robinson. He has played on two teams in his early NFL career, and those teams were led by Blake Bortles and now Mitch Trubisky. He's a legitimate professional wide receiver, yet he continues to play for crap teams. I think it would have been awesome if the Niners could have gotten him. Too bad. Eddie Pinheiro is a good kicker. Look, I'm a Florida Gator fan when it comes to college football. I watched Eddie Pinheiro play at Florida. The guy is deadly accurate from about 45 yards and in. Okay, I understand that he just missed a 41-yard field goal to lose that game, but that's in Chicago. That's not a regular 41-yard field goal. For anybody who's never been to Chicago, it's a very windy city. That's why it's called the Windy City. It's going to be tougher there to kick that field goal, so I'm not going to put all that on Eddie Pinheiro. I'm also not going to put a ton on Matt Nagy for the comment that he made after the game. To me, it's just semantics. I get everybody's jumping on him for making the comment that when defenses know that you're going to rush the ball, you're going to lose 2 to 3 yards, and everybody's all over him. Like, that's not true. People rush when, teams rush all the time when defenses know that you're going to rush, and they still get positive yards. It happens every game. It does. Look, it happens all the time. I get it. I don't think that's what... I understand what he was trying to say. What he was trying to say was it was a very obvious situation. You could fumble the ball. If you throw, you can get the ball intercepted. You can lose yards potentially there, making that field goal even longer. And look, he missed it at 41. If they lost any more yards, he would have missed it even further out. So I get what he's trying to say. I'm not going to crush the guy for it. I do think he needs to, figure something out as far as quarterback goes. But he's in a tough spot. So I'm not going to kill him over, like I said, semantics. At the end of the game, they just lost a disappointing loss. Their home fans are booing him. The interviewer asked a question that he felt he had already answered, so he was annoyed. So whatever. Yes, the Bears lose another game to a field goal kick. They also won a game earlier this year to a field goal kick, so I'm also not going to continue that narrative. The Chargers win a game that really nobody noticed, I guess. I don't know. Does anybody watch Charger football? I don't really know. Like, if you're an LA fan and you're an LA football fan, you're probably watching the Rams who were in the Super Bowl last year. The Chargers belong in San Diego. There's not much else to say about that. Phillip Rivers has a great, good game and continues his Hall of Fame career. Props to Phillip. I love watching Austin Eckler run around. He's like a little mini monster out there. He's awesome. He runs with a lot of power and passion. He's a beast. I love the guy. The Mini Beast, as I have nicknamed him. But, so they won a game. The Chargers did, I guess. Raiders at Texans. The Raiders are slowly becoming one of the toughest teams to handicap. That's why I stay away from them when it comes to betting. Deshaun Watson was awesome in this game. The play, I'm sure you've seen it. It's been all over the place where he scrambles, his face mask gets kicked, he adjusts his helmet, and he then throws a touchdown throw. It's very impressive. If the kid has time, he can do amazing things. I've been saying that all year. In other news, for the Texans, J.J. Watt is injured and out for the year. Same injury, I think, that Quan Alexander suffered. Either way, they think he may have to undergo surgery. He's not going to be back anytime soon. The Raiders put up a good fight in this one, but ultimately they don't get it done. And they're becoming, like I said, more difficult to handicap. They're very inconsistent. I'm not really sure what you're going to get. I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders beat the Lions. I wouldn't be surprised if they get their pants beaten off of them at home by the Lions either. So they're a very difficult team to predict. Josh Jacobs is a legitimate running back. That was a good pick by the Raiders. He's going to be good and good for years to come. The Texans continue to win, and I don't think they're Super Bowl bound by any means. I think the NFC is way better than the AFC, other than the Patriots. I will give them that respect. Until the king gets knocked off the hill, the king remains the king. But I do believe that the Texans are playoff bound. Keep that kid clean there in Houston, and he'll show you what he can do. Jets at Jaguars, guys. Is Minshew Mania back? Yes, it is. I believe it is. Bottom line is that the kid makes some great plays, right? He makes some plays that are they're absolutely phenomenal, and he makes some really stupid plays too. But at the end of the day, he's a 7th-round pick, and this is his first year in the NFL. So we got to give him a little bit of wiggle room. I think this guy has a place in the NFL. Joe Flacco, on the other hand, I've been saying for years is not an NFL quarterback. So he's not good. He goes on to national television, to the media. He airs out the laundry of how he didn't like Vic Fangio's play calls. I don't know about you guys, but I was raised that if I have beef with somebody or I don't like the way somebody did something that I'm working with in any professional capacity, or really just any man in general, I go to that person and I talk to him about it face to face. Instead, Joe Flacco goes to the media. He talks about it there rather than going to Fangio. He airs everything out, his frustrations, and he is now benched for the next following week, as he should be. Be a professional, Joe. You're a grown man. You're a grown-ass man. All right. So that's the... I just bounced from Jets, Jaguars to Broncos and Colts because bottom line is that Jets-Jaguars game, who cares, right? Minshew Mania is back. That's cool. The Jets lose again, and they are officially going to need some time to turn this franchise around. I think they've got a young and talented defense to build around, but they got a lot of their holes they need to fill. That's all I have to say about that. Broncos, Colts, like I said, Joe Flacco's not good. He's going to get, he's getting benched because of what he did after the game. Vinatieri misses an extra point. It was like the 4th or 5th. I think it was the 4th field goal he'd missed in like 2 or 3 games. And then he hits a game winner from 51 yards out. That was pretty impressive by Vinatieri. Good job there, buddy. Jacoby Brissett and the Colts continue to win, and I think that division is going to be very interesting. Like I mentioned earlier, as it comes down to it between the Colts and the Texans, it's going to be a very interesting division. I don't think either team's going to win the Super Bowl or even make it there, but it'll be fun. All right, and that is it for the recap, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. I will see you next week on The Green Zone. Thank you for listening, you beautiful, beautiful listeners.